Joining us now, he doesn't know much about snow because, well, he's in Miami. Former mayor of Miami. He's also a former head of the mayor's council. And now he is the co-chair, the political co-chair, national co-chair of the Bloomberg for President campaign, sharing that responsibility with former Philadelphia mayor who's been on our show many times, Michael Nutter. Mayor Diaz, great to have you, sir.
Good morning. How are you? It's good to be on.
Well, thank you, sir. Cuban-American also. I've met your son many times in D.C. I want to get to the debate last night. I really didn't everybody, all the talking heads are calling Mayor Bloomberg the big loser. He hasn't had a debate since 2009. Everybody attacked him. I don't see it. I mean, he got a few shots in. I would have had different answers. But, I mean, he gets up, he goes off stage, he goes back to his hotel with his live-in, and then he goes back to campaigning. Like, I don't see the damage. Tell me I've gotten this analysis wrong.
No, as a matter of fact, I agree with you. And you know when you're a winner when you're drawing attacks from all of them. You know, you mentioned my son. For those who don't know, he's a football coach at the University of Miami. Sorry about the result this year in our game, but you know, and it kind of reminds me of when the 5-star recruit comes on campus for the first time, and all the guys that have been around, they hit harder. They hit him harder than anybody else because he's the first time the guy walks on. But he's a 5-star recruit. He's got a record to build on, and it's only a matter of time before that person gets their legs and achieves what everybody expects him to, and that's the way I see Mike. I mean, this was his first, like you pointed out, his first debate in 10 years. The other candidates have been there. I think this is their 8th or 9th debate.
Right.
So they're kind of used to each other. They're kind of they know the talking points. They have the bullet points and the lines that they've got to get out, and they've done all the focus groups and everything else that you do, and they've got that down. And this was Mike's first shot, and they tried, like you said, they tried to destroy him. It didn't happen. They wanted him to lose his cool. That didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, quite frankly, in many respects, I think he was the grown-up in the room. Unfortunately, in these debates, we generally have a minute. It's hard to really focus on the record. And, I would put up, Mike's record in New York City and in life against anyone else that was on that stage last night. You just don't have enough time. And one of the things that you learn from these debates is, okay, I only have a minute. How do I get my record in there? How do I get my accomplishments during my life in there in a quick soundbite? And that's hard. That's part of the process of going through debates and learning how to deal with the time constraints.
Well, Mayor Diaz, look, I agree with you there. I think he walked out of the stage. Everybody took their best shot at him, and
right.
It to me, any
For
debate
sure.
going forward is not going to be as bad as that. Now he knows what to expect, and
Right.
Knives out, right? And I really thought a lot of people said Warren won. I didn't see it because my thing is won what? I don't see how she gained any votes. Basically what I called her Lady Macbeth. What she did was just, shoot arrows at everybody. Never really defended her own situation. So I don't even see her as the winner. I thought it was Pete because he just eviscerated Klobuchar and ended her campaign, which was his mission last night. Let's get to the pathway to the nomination. Right now, there was an analysis done by David Plouffe, the former campaign manager for Barack Obama, and on Axios. And it said that if the trajectory as it stands today plays out on Super Tuesday, Sanders would win 42% of the delegates, Bloomberg 18%, and he would have an insurmountable lead to the nomination. As a result of that, campaign officials for Bloomberg called on moderates like Pete Klobuchar to get out, to give a one-on-one opportunity to deny Bernie the nomination. True or false?
Well, I mean, I think I don't know the exact numbers that Plouffe is talking about, but obviously the polls are showing two things right now. Number one, that Bernie is the front runner, and he's got a head of steam behind him. Number two, that we have a head of steam behind us and are now somewhat fairly firm in terms of our second place in polling. We've only been doing this for 13 weeks, by the way. And then you see the others. You see Mayor Pete with low numbers outside of his performances in Iowa and New Hampshire. Doesn't seem to be getting any traction anywhere else. Senator Klobuchar the same way. And you see Vice President Biden's numbers going down double digits nationally and in many state polls. So, you don't want Senator Sanders to get an insurmountable lead. And right now, what you have in the sort of the centrist group of candidates, you have Mike with the upward momentum, everybody else either flat or going down. And there's a call by many that we need to come together, because there are many of us who feel that having Bernie Sanders at the top of the ticket would be bad, not just for the presidential race, but also the very serious impact that it could have in the down ballot. And I know that at that point you have many congressional candidates, you have even state representatives and senators who run for the hills because they don't want a Bernie Sanders on top of the ticket.
All right, so let me ask you this, Mayor Diaz. There's a consensus that if Bernie gets to the top of the ticket, and I'm really trying to figure out now how are you going to stop him. But if he leads the ticket, there's a consensus that said he gets annihilated by Trump and takes the House down, win it. Certainly, they're not going to win the Senate back, and the Republicans are likely to win the House back if Bernie Sanders is at the top of the ticket. I don't necessarily subscribe to that doomsday scenario as a Trump supporter and a Republican, but I can certainly see the argument for it. But what is the pathway for Bloomberg? He's not going to get 1,900 delegates. Does he want to be the nominee, or does some people said he just wants to pick, be the overlord? I mean, what's Bloomberg's pathway to 1,900 to be the nominee, Mayor Diaz?
Mike is most definitely in this to win. His entering the race was essentially a recognition on his part of where we are today, by doing his own polling and coming to that conclusion, back in the fall of last year, that all things considered, Bernie would be on the top of the ticket, and the rest of the candidates, and his estimation, he believes that a Bernie, and is shared by many, that Bernie at the top of the ticket is a guarantee that President Trump is reelected, and all the other coattail effects that you mentioned. I mean, right now, I believe it's now 4 states three Super Tuesday states in Florida were first or tied for first. We're moving into second place in a number of states. So you see that momentum, and we just got to keep pounding. We just got to keep pouring it on, and making sure that we win in those states, that we bring up other states with us, and catch up and go in strong into the convention and build the coalition that will get Mike the nomination.
Well, I think you're going to win Virginia. I think on Super Tuesday, March 3rd, you're going to win Virginia. Right now, the early polls have you tied. Virginia's a really important state because it could be in play in 2020. It's very diverse. It's not like one of the southern states that are on Super Tuesday. But I think Bloomberg is going to win Virginia. I don't see anybody beating him there. I think he's tied with the last poll I saw. He was tied with Sanders. The last time in Virginia, Sanders got 32% or something against Clinton. So he's not particularly popular in Virginia. Right. And, of course, Mayor Bloomberg spent a lot of money here on electing Virginia Democrats to various offices. He spent hundreds of millions of dollars getting them in over a period of time. So I think he wins Virginia. What other states out there can you actually win, you think, on Super Tuesday? I know you can't make it, any definitive thing, but other than Virginia, is there any other states on Super Tuesday that Bloomberg can actually win, Mayor Diaz?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, we in Virginia we have 80 staffers now with 7 offices and a whole series of endorsers. look, this is a national campaign. When we entered this race late, as you know, from a chronological perspective and also from a strategic perspective, our sense was that all the candidates are going to fight to share 4% of the delegates during February, and our focus had to be in looking at the March and April states. So right now we've got full-blown operations in 43 states. We have over 2,500 employees around the country. We're in Puerto Rico, which, by the way, has more delegates than Iowa. So it's a massive campaign everywhere in the country, and by the time everybody finishes in February and they arrive in the states that we're at now, that's what they're going to face. They're going to face a well-oiled machine with some of the best political staffers in every individual state from that state, with a strong organization, and they're all starting from scratch. You asked me. I think we have a good shot at Arkansas. I think we have a good shot at Alabama, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and of course Virginia. So we feel good about where we are there. The tide is rising, and we just have to keep at it.
We're with former mayor of Miami, Manny Diaz, and he was also chairman of the what was it called? The Mayors Conference, the big U.S. Mayors Conference, and
U.S. Conference of Mayors.
Yes, and excellent mayor of Miami. And I've always said I lived in New York when Bloomberg was there. He was a great mayor. I always say that when I get any of your people on. Undeniably, he was an outstanding mayor, especially the way he led New York back through 9/11 and all that. But beyond that, right. I mean, his tenure there, I mean, New York was safe. It was clean. He cleaned the streets up, and he was an outstanding mayor. Let's get to Joe Biden, Mayor Diaz. His campaign has just completely collapsed. He did nothing to help himself last night. I don't think he's going to win South Carolina, and I think he's done. What happened to the Biden campaign? What happened?
Yeah, one of the concerns I had early on, because obviously I've known the vice president for many years and liked him very much. I just didn't see from the get-go sort of a message and a vision, and so what I was concerned with was that his support was more of a legacy support. We've known him for a long time. He's a decent guy. He was vice president, and so you check all the boxes in terms of a person's potential, and then you actually get into the field and have to deliver on that. And I feel like it feels like from the get-go he's had trouble being able to really craft a message of what his vision is. I mean, it's good that he speaks about whether it's from his perspective, the assault weapons ban or Violence Against Women Act or some other things that he's done in the past, and that's good. That's part of why some people like him, but that's all in the past. The question is what is your vision today for America? And I just don't think that message has been delivered.
Well, he's done. So whatever happened to him, I never thought he was going to get to Super Tuesday. I predicted that 12 months ago, and I think I'm about to be right. I don't think Biden gets out of South Carolina. If he gets beat in South Carolina, his campaign's over. He has no money. Mayor Diaz, Miami, I want to get to stop and frisk and the heat that Mayor Bloomberg is taking over. Now, you were mayor of a major city. There was crime in Miami, as you know, a lot of drug cartels there. You cleaned it up. His defense or his explanation for stop and frisk in New York simply is not resonating. And I'm not even sure what it is. I still couldn't figure out if he was defending it or apologizing it. What is the deal with that? How does it compare to what Mayor Diaz did in Miami? And what do you think the answer to the criticism for Bloomberg on this is, sir?
Well, I think the toughest part of our job as mayors is dealing with homicides, dealing with that 3 a.m. phone call where young children or young kids are killing each other, It does happen more often than not in minority communities, whether it's in Miami or New York or anywhere else. And so, people need to understand how Mike gets to the issue, and he gets there with a view towards saving lives, stopping the bloodshed, particularly in minority neighborhoods and communities, and getting guns off the street. And so, it's a policy that was implemented sometimes too aggressively. It's not always easy as a mayor to keep your police department in check, and sometimes they do go overboard, and it did have a disproportionate impact in minority communities. But as you point out, homicides were reduced in half. It's amazing to me that in a city of 8.5 million people, you have 300 homicides, annually. I mean, that's just absolutely remarkable, as you pointed out, how he made this the safest large city in America. And the other thing that I do, the other thing that I talk to people about, and he talks to people about, is everything else. Because, unfortunately, sometimes in politics these days, we tend to be too laser focused on one aspect of your life, and then everything else goes by the wayside. But if you look at his record, the incarceration rate in New York, he brought down the incarceration rate by 40%. He brought down juvenile detention by over 60%. He reduced firearm deaths by 46%. Crime went down by over a third. Mm-hmm. And he did all this with innovative programs, risk assessment, trying to work with young people, trying to get them out of the system over the long term, worked, at improving graduation rates in minority communities. The African-American graduation rate increased by 53% under his watch. He created a program called the Young Men's Initiative, which to help young men of color, which ended up being adopted, in essence, by President Obama in something called My Brother's Keeper Initiative. Poverty of the 20 largest cities, it's the only one in the country that remained flat. Everybody else was averaging over 36%. Like you mentioned, the job creation, the $3.5 billion in minority and women contracts in the city of New York. And I could go on and on and on, 175,000 affordable housing units. So you've got to look, in my opinion anyway, that's the way I was brought up, you've got to look at a person in the totality of what they do. And we're not all perfect. Perfect is the enemy of progress, many say. And in this case, he says, look, I got this aspect wrong, but look at everything else that I've done to help all communities in New York City. And I think that people need to look at that total record. And by the way, it's difficult to have a record when you've been in the U.S. Congress for 30, 40 years that you can talk about, because when you're a mayor, you have to do things, as you know. I mean, we get called upon by people everywhere, and in many cases, it's people in those very communities who are pounding us and saying, we want to be able to walk to the grocery store and not fear getting shot. We want our kids to be able to walk to school or go to the park and the playground and play with their friends without fear of getting shot or having a drive-by shooting. Those are the real day-to-day concerns that mayors deal with, which is easy to be in the Beltway in Washington and be critical of, but you've never experienced that, and you've never experienced having to go to a funeral, having to go visit with the family and help the family heal for the death of one of their children. I mean, those are tough things, and you try, as a mayor, you try everything you can to help them. And sometimes you get them wrong. Most of the time, hopefully, you get them right. And that's why he received as much support as he did in New York, having been elected elected and reelected to 3 terms. Obviously, people in New York, as you say, you were here while he was mayor, were very happy with the job that he did.
It was a great mayor. Mayor Diaz, can I make a suggestion?
Certainly.
You need to be Mike Bloomberg's debate coach. I mean, the next debate preparation, I don't care where you are, you need to fly and inject yourself in and be the debate coach. What you just said, why didn't he say that last night? If he says that, half of the fallout wouldn't have happened. You need to be Bloomberg's debate coach. I'm going to tell his staff that. What you just said was a terrific defense of his record up and down. He had all the facts, but he didn't say that last evening. So you need to be his debate coach.
I appreciate the kind words. The difference is that right now I'm sitting in a hotel room, and when you're in front of cameras and millions of people are watching and everybody else is trying to attack you, it's kind of hard to get all those thoughts together. And by the way, say that all in 1 minute or less. So,
well, you just said it in 1 minute right here on my radio show. We're going to get this tape and send it to him and say, hey, Mayor Mike here. All you have to do is play this podcast that we put up on our YouTube channel of Mayor Manny Diaz. Just play it in your headphones before you go into bed over and over and over. And the next debate is going to be totally different. Just do it. Do what Manny Diaz did. You're good to go. Mr. Mayor, I'm out of time. That was a spirited defense, man. I was impressed with that, Mayor. Thanks for being with us here.
I'm impressed with your political analysis, by the way.
Oh, spot on. You know what? Look, all the talking heads out there, they just, first of all, on my side of the aisle, they go to rnc.com and they just, read what the Republicans put up, and that's their analysis. And then all the other stuff is on the surface. Elizabeth Warren saved her campaign. She doesn't have a campaign. Nobody likes her. I mean, all she did was attack 8 people last night. She's like throwing arrows indiscriminately. She doesn't have a campaign. People don't like the woman. Sorry, So to say she won, that's a lazy way to analyze it. Klobuchar's out. She got annihilated. This guy Pete, man, you're gonna have to deal with him. He's really good. Yeah. Every time I see him, I mean, he went into that debate last night. He had a mission. He had a mission. Take out Amy Klobuchar because she's crowding his what should be his natural vote, and with precision, he sliced her to pieces. At the end of the debate, Mr. Mayor, she was shaking. It was that bad.
Yes.
All right, I got to go.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.